On this episode of Old School Monster Life, we keep going with the old school monster truck build and start to make some progress on the new chassis. Welcome back for more Old School Monster Life and the build to create the next 48-inch monster truck, Danger Ranger. Anyway, we're getting started on stripping the rest of the frame down. We got the chassis in and the axles out, but all of the factory appliances that mount the springs and cross members that we don't need, they're all getting cut out today, and then we're going to clean the frame off, get it down to bare metal, and then start mocking up how the axles are going to go underneath the truck. So here's where we are. We have some of the odder things removed from the frame. That pull point, I guess, is what it was, but it was broken, bent, so that's gone. And still got a few more things to take off. I got the springs off. Now I have to take like the factory shock mounts out, the gas tank straps, the spring hangers will get removed, and then all of that stuff back there gets removed. But we're getting there. Like I said, pretty soon I'll be able to start fixing some of the minor issues with the frame, and then we'll start welding things back together. Well, we got everything stripped off the frame that we needed to. I got all of the cross members that I'm not going to use are out, and it's just a bare, clean frame. I got all of the ridiculousness cut off the back. Gas tank straps, all of the spring perches and shock mounts that I'm not going to use are gone. That horrible cross member for the dump bed is gone. I still got to clean that up a little bit in there. And over here, that'll get nicer as I progress. But everything's gone, everything's clean, well, clear. And I am getting ready to make it clean. I had to take a break and go get some more gas for the welder. I had to upgrade from a 250-pound bottle to a 300-pound bottle because, well, they're not going to stock the 250s anymore, so might as well just upgrade because I go through it enough that I need a 300-pound bottle. Anyway, so we did that, and now I'm going to get busy and make this rusty piece of junk into something that we can build a monster truck chassis out of. Well, I'm starting to wire wheel the frame down, and I found a limitation for my botched surgery on the wrist. I absolutely cannot hang on to that grinder for very long, and I just start to lose the use of my hand. It's the vibration, you know, the constant clamping down on it. I can't do it for very long. But anyway, we're making progress. I should still have it done today. It's just going to hurt a little bit more than I thought it would. But hey, that's life. We're going to get her done. So this is about where we're at. Here's a good before. Well, actually that's the before and then after. So we're getting there. We still got this back here to do. But, you know, it's coming along. So anyway, that's where we're at. I'm going to keep going until I can't stand it anymore, and then call it a day and try again tomorrow. Well, it was a brutal day in the shop, but we got what I set out to get done. The frame is all stripped of all the mounting tabs and spring mounts and cross members, and ran a wire wheel over everything, so now it's a shiny metal frame that I can start building on. So tomorrow I'm going to get the axles in here and start mocking everything up so I know how much to build, basically. And then we'll start cutting, grinding, and welding and getting the spring mounts in place and getting this chassis to roll again. But it was a great day, but whew, man, I'm beat. I hurt. But this is where every build should start. Just a bare, clean frame. That way you know exactly what's going on. No hodgepodge mess to deal with later. No, oh, I didn't see that before. Just tear it all down, start from scratch, know what you have. So here we are. Now we can do the repairs that needed to be repaired. And everything is ready to get worked on. Now, why did I take the spring perches off? Couldn't I just build off of those? Well, yes and no. The spring perches that are on here are outside the frame rails, and because we're doing four-wheel steering, I want to try to tuck the springs in as close as I can, and that way you have room to turn the rear wheels. Otherwise you'd get like 10 degrees of turning. So now that all this is done, we can actually start to build. When we're done with deconstruction, it's time to build. It's been a little while since I updated you last. I did get some work done on the chassis. I got everything stripped and cleaned, and now the chassis is, or the frame is at the correct height that it needs to be, and the axles are placed where they need to be. I found a set of springs. Tomorrow I'm going to go pick them up, and then I can start figuring out my drop spring hangers, and then start to have a rolling chassis. Hopefully I'll have by the end of next week. Today is Thursday, so hopefully by the end of next week I'll have a rolling chassis, traction bars made and everything. It's moving right along. So here we are with the chassis. This is about the ride height that it's going to be. And it's pretty tall, as you can imagine. Those tires there are about 44 inches tall, so it's going to be up there. But there again, these are only about 40 inches tall. The owner wanted the truck high enough that if he ever wanted to run 66s, all he had to do was find a set and bolt them on. So that's where we are, and we are going to continue to work on the chassis. Today I'm going to get the raised spring perches done, and then I can lay my springs on there and figure out what I'm going to need for the spring hangers. But up here we have all of the stiffeners and the missing cross member back in place. The frame is boxed, and I made sure I left myself enough room to get the bed bolts back in. Just like that on both sides. So that's where we are, and we're going to keep you updated with how we're doing. A little more progress on Danger Ranger, the old school monster truck build. We got springs in house now, so we can start setting up spring perches. And we got all the pieces cut for the spring perches. Here they are. All of that will be the raised welded spring perches for the axles. I just got to put them all together. And here are the springs. There's the front springs there. There's the rear springs there. Hopefully by the end of the week we can have an actual rolling chassis again. Well, it's been a day. We have the front spring perches welded on, and the springs just sitting in place, so now I can get the measurement for the U-bolts and order them on Monday. Today is Saturday night. Tomorrow I'm going to start getting the spring perches welded together for the back, and then after that I can start building the spring hangers. So hopefully by the end of this week I can have a rolling chassis again. Here's where we are. So there's the spring sitting in place. There's the new raised spring perches. I'm going to gusset the inside of it so it doesn't topple. I just didn't get that far yet. And then the back, there's one of the pieces for the spring perch. They have the brake lines and the steering arm cut off so I can get the perches where they need to be. And then there's the rear springs, the rest of the perch pieces. But now that I have all the stuff I need, I can start making progress again. So it should move pretty quick from here. Hey, we got another update. The rear suspension is actually holding up the back of the frame. Still have cross members and gussets to do to stiffen up the drop spring hangers, but I got suspension in the back of it. Still a long way to go, but it's getting there. Now you know it's a big truck when you need a step stool to weld on the top of the frame. Little by little, we got U-bolts and top plates made. And we got shackles and spring hangers. Starting to look like a monster truck. Well, we finally have something worth reporting. The Danger Ranger is now a roller. That means that the suspension is done. I still have to do the center cradle and the traction bars, but the spring hangers and the spring perches on the axles and the springs are mounted. I have mounting plates with the U-bolts on the axles, and it's all together and supporting its own frame. So here we are with the Danger Ranger as a roller. Start back here. All the supports with gussets are in, so nothing will fold and walk around as it's getting put through the paces. Now the shackles are out front because I'm going to do solid traction bars, and they need to be away from the center of the truck for solid bars. Otherwise I'd have to put hydraulic cylinders into the front traction bars, and I don't want to do that. I'm just trying to save a little bit of cost, and it works just as well. But there it is. It is a roller. Now, the next thing I got to do is start mocking up the engine and trans. Once I get the engine and trans mounted, then I can go back and start building mounts for the transfer case. Once the transfer case is mounted, then I can start putting a body back on this thing. I still got to pull the axles out. I have to go through all the axles, make sure all the seals and bearings and everything are good. I want to put new boots on them, so there's that to do. But for the most part, it's moving right along. This is a huge milestone, so great news. It took long enough, but here we are. One thing I want to point out about my spring hangers, I do them a certain way. A lot of people like to use square tube or rectangle tube. I don't like to. I build everything out of 1/4-inch plate, and there's a reason for that. Basically, I'm trying to grab as much frame as I possibly can for the spring hangers. So at the top of the spring hanger where it contacts the frame, there's 12 inches of 1/4-inch plate grabbing that spring hanger. You can see here there's 12 inches from here to here. And then it's 3 inches down here. And then in the middle, I have a rib that goes here on this edge, a rib that goes here on this edge, and then I actually have one down here in the middle. So it's a giant honeycomb, and that way there's 3 places that spring hanger is pushing up against the frame, not to mention this huge weld area around here and on the inside. You can see it goes around the factory cross member. and it's actually welded to the factory cross member and where I boxed the frame in. So it's just as strong as it can possibly be. That way you can air the truck out. I don't know how much he's going to air a leaf sprung truck out, but the possibility is there. It should hold up just fine. I don't think this one's going to get used like that, but just in case, it's ready for it. Alright, on the Danger Ranger, we have the cradle done, well, where the traction bar mounts is done. I still have to make the transfer case mounts that will be in the cradle, but the mounts for the traction bars are done, and I built one traction bar so far, so we've got 3 more to go, and then the mounts, they're going to tie into the steering ram mounts on the axles, so I got to do them first, but for now I'm going to try to finish up the traction bars. So here's what we have. There is the traction bar mount, and it's webbed in the middle too. And then here is the first traction bar. And I always like to put rubber bushings on there so it can move around a little bit better. But there's another eyelet up here with another rubber bushing. And as soon as I get the traction bars done and the steering ram mounts in, I can roll this outside, throw the cab back on it, and start on the roll cage for inside the cab. Okay, we are wrapping up this edition of Old School Monster Life with the Danger Ranger chassis. I was going to wait until it was all done, but some people have been asking me how it's been going, so I'll just go ahead and show you what I have so far. The chassis is dangerously close to being done. So far all I have to do is transfer case mounts, the orbital mount for the steering on the front, steering ram mounts on the axles, and then the mounting tabs for the traction bars on the axles. And then all of the welding should be done with the chassis. Then I have to go back and put the cab on and weld a cage inside the cab, but the chassis is dangerously close to being done. So here's where we are right now. This is the Danger Ranger chassis. All the way back. Can't get much further back. There you go. But the traction bar mount section of the cradle is done. Now it will have a tie bar in the middle, and that's what the transfer case will hang on. But the traction bars are all built. They are rubber bushed at both ends. And all of my mounts here have 3 webs. They have a web here, one in the middle, and then here, so we can contact as much of the frame as possible, so nothing should bend. It's got maximum strength. Like I said, I still have to make the mounts for that end, but it is really, really close. I am very happy with the way this is turning out, and I can't wait to start putting the body back on it. This thing's going to be really, really cool when it's done. Anyway, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. If you have any questions, comments, leave them down below, and we'll see you on the next time.